This is the Team Objection podcast for June 3rd, 2021, episode 485. Here we are. You can see from the top of the screen and the surroundings what's going on in this episode. If you're just listening to it, that's fine. There's an audio component. You're cool.
It's another Sunscast.
It has to be. And, I actually thought if we had lost Game 5, and especially in heartbreaking fashion, we might have just not talked about it. We would have done a season wrap maybe the following week when, the scars weren't so fresh. Instead, the exact opposite happened. So we have to talk about it again because there's some pivotal stuff coming up. When this episode airs, it'll be Game 6. We are recording this on Wednesday night. Game 5 was last night, so there's plenty to talk about there. We actually have some more results from the rest of the playoffs to talk about. We know at least a few teams that have now advanced to the second round, although we don't know our future yet, so plenty to go over.
It's funny that our intro banner says it's guaranteed to show more heart than LA. Merely showing up and being on camera right now is showing more heart than Los Angeles did in Game 5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even really understand what happened. So this whole time I was like, I think any fan does this. Like, what if for one game in this series we play like we know that we can play? We still haven't gone off offensively, right? Actually, even after Game 5, we haven't gone off offensively yet.
No.
Something like, what if we just wouldn't it be nice going to a game that we're expecting to be close, could go either way, if we just went lights out and won by 20 points? And you're like, well, that's not going to happen. But wouldn't that be nice? And then, it was 26-34. And I'm like, okay, up 8 points. They're going to make a run, but it's good to get little leads early. And then it's 40-26. I'm like, all right, even better. And then it's 50-26. I'm like, I don't think they've moved past 26 or so in a long time. And yeah.
What was the summation of that run between? It was split into two parts, but it was 26-1 or something.
Yeah, it was 24-1, I believe, is what it ended up being.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it ended up being 28-2 at one point. It was something stupid.
And it's so funny because they come out and Markieff, of course, hits a three, and I'm like, oh, so this is what we're in for now. Markieff is gonna break it. So he hits a three. LeBron has a pretty nice layup or something. And then they decided we're good. We're happy with this effort.
The crazy thing was McHale missed a three at the buzzer of the end of the first half. That would have, I think, doubled them. I think they had 36 ending the half or 38. We would have basically doubled them up in the first half had McHale hit that three.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep, and it's also crazy to me that they were up 10-5, 5-0, but then also 10-5. They were up 10-5, and then you look at where that score went.
Yeah.
In rapid fashion. Now, look, it was phenomenal to watch. It's cathartic. It was sort of akin to what Goran Dragic did to the Spurs single-handedly a few years ago, where it's this doesn't really erase years of bad memories, but it goes a long way, and it feels great. None of us are going to sit on here and be like, well, that's it. The series is over. We've crushed them. I think we all have high hopes for Game 6, but I don't take anything from this one performance. I don't think the Lakers could possibly play this bad again.
Not as bad as they did. I don't think so, because it was a perfect storm of they didn't have a lot of heart, so that's that's a huge component right there. But let's be honest, there were layups that they were missing. Part of that goes to our defense. Part of it was just that was just a bunny, and they just kept rimming out or bouncing off. And Dennis Schroeder, 0 points, 0.
0 of 9
They're
shooting.
we need you to show up, Dennis. 0 points, 1 assist.
There was a number of plays too that everything when it started rolling, when the avalanche started of shots going down. Booker kind of started it by hitting a few crazy shots, especially some and ones where he got fouled and had no business making them and then did. And then it snowballed into LeBron got blocked by Torrey Craig, which was just, I could not believe that
probably
happened.
A foul, but I'm going to take it.
It was an offensive foul. That was all ball from Torrey.
Yeah. And then it snowballed into LeBron got the ball stolen from him, didn't run back on defense, and Torrey Craig just slammed it on a perfect give and go. It's hey, LeBron, remember when you're on the other side of the court? Oh, you gave up with 6 minutes left in the first half? At least Kobe waited the second half to give up.
Yeah, there's 3 separate highlights of him doing that. Just that one in the first half, which was maybe the most telling, but 2 more times in the third quarter where LeBron decided, I'll stat pad a little bit, get my numbers up. then check out, and then leave the bench with 5 minutes left. That's it. And remember, I texted this to you guys, but for those who don't follow this as closely or just may have missed it, he had a quote between games 4 and 5 talking about how Anthony Davis was almost certainly going to be out, where he just talked about how his shoulders were made this broad for a reason.
Everybody knows that one. Yep.
And that is not what I would say was broad shoulders. I think those shoulders were very narrow and couldn't carry anything worth a shit.
And he came out, like LeBron came out in this game, not attacking. He came out shooting threes, which, thank you. You can shoot threes all day, LeBron. You went 6 of 8, I think, from 3 this game. Great. I'm fine. That does not do anything for your offense.
His fewest drives of the season.
Yeah. I mean, he came out shooting threes, then got down big, and it's like, well, the only way you can catch up is by shooting threes, so let's keep trying it, which the rest of their team couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, so who cares? Like,
Dave, how many free throw attempts would you guess LeBron had?
I think he had 0 in that game.
Didn't make it to the line.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's funny. I don't think necessarily the Suns had a better game plan this game or anything. I think Anthony Davis being out was obviously huge in this instance where we can switch easier, we can penetrate easier. But, I mean, overall, the Suns played better. Booker was on fire to start the game. Campaign was on fire. I mean, Booker and Campaign together, I think, outscored the Lakers by 15 in the first half.
They did not, but they almost outscored them. They were too short of what the Lakers had combined by themselves.
Yeah, it was. I know they were doing well. So
yeah, it was bad. And look, LeBron, I think, started the game off trying to get his teammates involved, which may have been the right idea. When they couldn't shoot worth a damn, I think the flaw that he had was he didn't start attacking. He was still playing passively, and it's like, okay, I know it's going to be an uphill battle for you. This is reminiscent of like your Cleveland days where obviously the talent around you is shit right now. But if you're the leader that you proclaim yourself to be, you don't get to check out of a game 5 like this. You don't. And look, we have varying degrees of anti-LeBron on this panel, okay? You know, there's like Dave, who's probably the biggest fan of his. I'm in the middle. No, I think I'm reversing that. Whatever the hell. Dave hates Michael Jordan is basically the thing. He likes LeBron a lot, right? That was the worst performance I've seen from him.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't watched every LeBron game, but that was pathetic.
Well, so the issue for me, well, more than anything, the offense is one thing. Yeah, you want him to attack more, but you know, he's 36, and I think it was some player, Richard Jefferson, Reggie Miller, someone made a comment of like, is that father time? Like finally kind of tapping on LeBron's shoulder. But the high sprain is a thing is a factor. Absolutely. So he's not 100%. He's old. He's hurt, right? For me, what was inexcusable was the defensive effort.
Yep.
And I know that when you're down by 30, it's hard to muster up, the motivation. But like your back's against the wall, and it's not just you. You're the role model for the entire team. And if you can't get back down on D for the identical play too, Dave, where like in game 4, he didn't get back, and they hit a 3. We hit a 3 on the fast break because it was like a power play, you know. Yep. You can't let that happen if you want to be the greatest player of all time. You know.
And what's funny is you mentioned how LeBron had shit talent around him in Cleveland and now has shit talent around him in this game. There seems to be a theme with LeBron and the teams he goes to where he comes into these super teams and then all of a sudden by the end of it, it's like, oh, wow, this team sucks. And it's happened in Miami. He came to the super team and by the end they sucked. Happened in Cleveland. It's happening now, and it's really odd how it continues to occur this way.
Well, he's the GM. So,
yeah.
You know what would probably help LA right now? Lonzo Ball, maybe, at least for defense. Brandon Ingram, I think especially. I would be more afraid of Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram than fucking Schroeder and whoever else they have. KCP?
Got hurt again, by the way.
Yeah, he sure did.
And you know what? I'm starting to think, look, we're not going to overreact to one game as part of this. And I thought the father time takes were a little bit stupid considering he was a bona fide MVP candidate before the high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
So it's not like the switch just flipped in the span of like a month and a half. That's, you know, it could be adding up over time, sure, but I don't think it's that. The ankle sprain, definitely a factor. To me, the more I watch LeBron as his career is starting to come to an end, the more I realize he is such a singular talent and he's so good at orchestrating an offense with or without the ball that not only do his teams have no idea how to play without him, they don't even know how to play off of him if he's not being ball dominant and orchestrating the flow of the game. And I don't know what it is. Like, Dennis Schroeder had a good season for OKC last year. Now, he's probably better positioned as a sixth man than a starter, but it wasn't like he couldn't create his own offense. And now it looks like he has no idea how to be a functional NBA basketball player. Montrezl Harrell, who's overrated, was the sixth man of the year last year.
Well, he can't
even
get in the game.
play. And
Yeah.
he couldn't even play now. Like, he played garbage time minutes. Even with Anthony Davis out, they didn't trust him because they know he's a sieve defensively.
Well,
So,
and-
like, what happens? How is it that LeBron isn't taking these players and making them better? If anything, they're worse around him unless he's spoon-feeding them all the time, which is a lot to ask of him, but also kind of a criticism of him.
It is, but also, are these players the right type of players to build around someone like LeBron, who is who can be ball dominant and fires and shoot and makes great passes to set up his teammates? Nobody can shoot on this team. Kyle Kuzma, please. And no one cuts on this team either. I don't think I've ever seen any single Laker player in this series do a back cut at all, besides maybe LeBron cutting the basket.
And
So-
look, I'm under no disillusion. Like, I know if Anthony Davis was healthy, this could be a very different conversation right now. Like, I get that. But he's not. And that really has exposed the how fragile this team is.
Yep.
Those are the only two, like, pillars of this entire structure. And if one is weakened, the whole thing starts to collapse.
One last elephant in the room we need to address for Game 5 reaction. Chris Paul. God, how the arena went silent. He seems to be okay from everything everyone's saying, but they also said that going into Game 2. I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah, there's not a lot of updates today. I was hoping we'd have a little bit more information on either him or Davis, and basically the update on Chris Paul is he seems okay. We'll evaluate him tomorrow, but we're expecting him to play. And on Davis, he was basically saying the medical staff has to clear me, but if they do, I'll be out there. But we have no idea what that means as far as the relation to 100% for either of them. I think it's much more of a concern for Davis just because he's got two different lower body injuries that he's working on right now, the knee and the groin, whereas Paul at least can run around still, and if he's not feeling it, we bring in Campaign earlier. So, I mean, we'll see what that means, but...
This is kind of a transition into finishing the series. But,
sure.
Like,
Bam.
with the shoulder injury, I mean, I think at worst we're going to get, like, Game 2 Chris Paul, which is not great. Chris Paul Game 3 was the absolute worst, but I think it could be like Game 4 Chris Paul, or actually I should say Game 5 Chris Paul, because he kind of regressed a little bit. I don't think it was the injury necessarily. He just didn't play super well, but then you look and he had the highest plus minus of the entire team. So he has value beyond just putting the ball in the hoop. As long as he can dribble, and that's been the issue with the Stinger, is like he goes for a dribble and he has to look because the ball didn't do what he thought it was going to do. And that's concerning. Davis, to me, he ain't playing. And I, as a fan of the Suns, I almost wish he would play, because with a groin injury, he's going to be a liability. Plain and simple. And they had a quote from some source: some AD is better than no AD. I don't know. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't think that's true. I've had this injury twice. It's horrible, and it is everything you want to do on a basketball court starts with that muscle. It's awful. So unless you're going to stand around and shoot, which is like, fine, great.
So you say some AD is better. Some people have said that. And I mean, I don't know. I tend to agree, because I think that the Lakers without Anthony Davis can't beat a healthy Suns team. I don't think they can beat us at all. Like, they don't have enough supporting cast beyond LeBron, and I don't think LeBron has the chops anymore to carry an entire team on his back, or on those shoulders anymore. I mean, we showed that in Game 5. If Anthony Davis sits out, I just don't see how the Lakers win this game. So we close it out.
And they also have to win twice.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if Anthony Davis isn't even close to 100%, let's say he plays and he's not very good in Game 6 and they somehow eke out a victory, he's not just going to magically go back to 100% for Game 7 either.
Yeah.
This is not the type of injury that you just kind of rest for a day and heal up. It's like a slightly tweaked ankle where you can be like, all right, well, elevated, we'll ice it. Like, you'll be mostly fine. Maybe you'll feel a little bit. This is very different from that. So, I mean, we did not look especially good in LA, even though we split. Devin Booker in particular was not very good in the two Los Angeles games, whereas he's been very good at home. Slightly overrated numbers in Game 2, which we were at, which we'll talk about later. Like he kind of milked that with some free throws at the end that were pretty stupid, right? But it remains like he's doubling his points at home versus on the road. So he's got to be better whether or not Chris Paul is playing. But it's kind of like what Dave said already. If there's no Anthony Davis, I mean, again, I don't expect the Lakers to shit the bed.
Again.
But I kept waiting for them to make a run in that game.
Yeah.
Everybody makes a run. It's the running joke of the NBA. Everybody always makes a run. Somebody gets a little like 10-0 burst on a couple threes and a steal and a layup, and all of a sudden the lead gets cut into. It didn't happen. It never happened. And this isn't like some regular season game. When LeBron was taking off possessions defensively and the Lakers were terrible, at least I could kind of understand because that's regular season and they're below 500 and their season's mostly over. Whatever. It was game 5 of a playoff series.
Of a tied playoff series where the winner wins 85% of the time.
Yeah. And if you can't muster up the effort for that, I don't know what's going to... now that their back's against the wall, they're going to be a cornered animal. Their backs were against the wall in Game 5.
Exactly. So, and it's funny, I look into Game 6, honestly, with a lot of trepidation because it's ingrained in me at this point after a decade of worse than mediocrity.
Yep.
But I'm hoping come, late Thursday night, Friday morning, we're going to look back and laugh because this has the traits of what happened against the Spurs. It's funny. Dave, you brought up both of these, actually. You brought up the Dragic game where we were like, oh, man, is this going to be the first team to come back from 3-0? The Spurs, and then, we beat them again, and pretty convincingly. Like, their backs were broken. And then I think back to the other thing Dave brought up, the Lakers, when we came back down 3-1, Game 6 was, like, insane. And then Game 7, like, their spirit was broken. We won by, like, 25 points. Kobe gave up at halftime.
Yep.
So I'm hoping with all the the big talk from LeBron and Anthony Davis holding up the 6 from the bench that we're gonna win convincingly. That's my hope. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'm like, please let history repeat itself here.
It is crazy to me how quickly everyone's sentiment switched. I had a Lakers fan that I used to work with text me after Game 3 and said series over. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know this was a best of 3 series. And since halftime of Game 4, the Suns have dominated every facet of this series, and to the point of where people are making, like we said earlier, excuses of like, well, LeBron's just trying to build the narrative up more. LeBron's like setting himself up for a legacy boost, which no, he's not. Anyone who says that is just joking.
Would have been a great legacy, beating us in like 5 or 6 games. That would have been
winning a
tremendous.
championship. Winning a championship and letting everyone get some rest that they need from being injured all year. Yeah. But like, just this series switched on a dime so fast, and it all started when Anthony Davis went out. So I lead back to they can't win without him at all. I don't know if they can't win with him.
Just to clarify.
I want to push back on this too, so do it.
We had all the momentum in the second quarter. So, yes, if things get easier for us with Anthony Davis, I do not want anyone thinking that I have the opinion that we couldn't win if he was playing, because we were looking good in that game. We could have won that game. We had everything going in our direction.
Yeah, everybody's like, oh, this Anthony Davis injury did this and that. I'm like, we were winning at halftime. He was 2 for 9 in the first half. Get the fuck out of here with those cold takes.
No, it's the fact of Anthony Davis getting hurt along with Chris Paul getting healthy.
Yeah,
because
exactly. Amazing how that works.
Yeah. And, we won Game 1. Everybody's so quick to forget that one, too. Yep. Now, I will concede, if it's a fully healthy LeBron James and it's a fully healthy Anthony Davis, I don't really like our chances. But, that's the NBA. Again, no one's going to Toronto and being like, we're going to need that championship back. Durant got hurt. It's the name of the game. Mm-hmm. And
Anthony Davis is injury prone, and LeBron James is 37 almost.
Yep.
And working on the 3rd most minutes of anybody in NBA history in playoffs and regular season combined. Yep. And that's not factoring in like Olympics and all the other shit in the offseason, and like the odometer's getting up there. And again, the ankle sprain was a fluke. He got like Solomon Hill just toppled on top of him. He looked great this season before that. So that's obviously a lot of this factor. But I don't care. I don't give a damn. Like, would it be awesome to beat the full-strength Lakers and show them what's what? Sure. But we're going to beat whoever's in front of us. So I don't give a damn.
And you know what? If you... I would maybe feel worse. So a couple things. On one hand, it's weird to be talking Lakers fans off the ledge with the... They want to blow the whole thing up now. You read takes like, we got to get rid of Anthony Davis. He's injury prone, which I don't disagree with. Like, do we want to build our franchise around this player and all the money and everything that goes with it when he's hurt, like all the time. Valid question. But, 3 days ago, you and all of your players were completely clowning us from the bench, like showing no decorum at all. Like just being absolute idiots. LeBron with his arrows and Andre Drummond and laughing and joking. It was just a great time.
It's just karma coming back and getting them.
How quickly
that was
turns.
so inappropriate and so stupid at their point, where it's like, great, we've got our injured point guard and you just came home and beat us. Yeah, you took a 2-1 series lead. Nothing is over. Like, you have to win 2 more games. And you're joking around the sidelines thinking the series is over. This is stupid. When
you see all these tweets, it's like, it's amazing how the Suns can win by 30 and you don't see them like climbing around on the sideline. Like, how is that possible?
I mean, all we did was celebrate with our teammates, which was awesome.
I got to tell you, Booker, I'm sorry, Booker showing no emotion at the end, I loved. Because he was just like,
means nothing.
This is, we didn't win any big time. We didn't win anything. It was one game.
Hey, as much fun as that 30-point win was to watch, because it was just an ass whooping from start to finish, it means nothing if we lose the series.
Yeah.
Correct.
So he's got the right perspective, which is awesome, because he doesn't really have the playoff chops to have that kind of experience from the past. It's just him being aware of what the moment is, and I'm sure some of it's just kind of Chris Paul's influence to be like, look, we haven't done shit yet.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did have a fantastic maturity answer to a clown question of, you got double-teamed in that gym 2 years ago. Did that help you for this game? No. I don't remember his exact answer, but
that was some Bush League shit from Chris Haynes.
What was the question?
The TNT reporter after the game asked him about him being double teamed in the gym 2 years ago.
Oh my God.
And if that helped.
And if that helped.
Like, wow. You're really stretching for questions. But look, let's be honest. TNT's broadcasts have been absolute trash.
All of them garbage.
For a while now, but especially this season because Marv Albert has lost about 19 steps.
Yeah.
And whoever's directing their telecasts, I think I mentioned in the text thread at one point, like when the Lakers were clowning us, they kept cutting into game action to show replays at times when game action was happening.
We missed full possessions.
Yeah.
Just to show LeBron doing the Archer thing.
And then they tried to show replays of what they missed, and they missed other stuff instead. And you're just like, oh my God, you guys, just fucking stop.
Yeah.
I'll lead into our next thing, I think, with about another complaint on TNT. I watched the game originally live on TNT, and then I went back today and kind of rewatched a lot of it on Bally Sports. Holy shit, it was so much better on Bally Sports. You heard the crowd. You felt the arena rocking. On the TNT broadcast, you heard nothing. It's insane how bad it was.
I noticed the difference just because I went and watched, I think, a Booker package of highlights, and it had the TNT feed because, of course it would, right? The people making those on YouTube are going to generally go to the national one. Yeah, the difference was stark. And I was going to watch it on the national broadcast at first, but we were slightly late starting because I was finishing up dinner. And so what we did what we usually do, which is started on Fox Sports, now Bally's, and just catch up. And we never switched because I was like, you know what the hell with it? I'm happy to hear EJ. I don't really need to hear the national takes anymore. I know what nationally people think of our team, right and wrong, and fuck it. So it was a much better experience having listened to that on our audio with our crowd being much more clear. And even that doesn't do it justice because we know from being at Game 2 that place is fucking loud.
Yep. And we went to Game 2 with 11,000 people. Game 5 had 16,000 people. And
11,000.
Yeah, well, fair. But yeah, you could tell how into it in the game. In Game 2, everyone was into it. Game 5, I think even more so. I didn't get the chance to go, unfortunately. But I mean, the arena experience, you could tell between the Suns arena in Game 2 and Game 1 and Game 5 how different it was versus the Lakers in Game 3 and 4. Like how much of a difference I think the Suns crowd made. And I think we're showing a lot of people who in the Valley who didn't know how much of a basketball town this is. And it's nice.
I love anytime you get a quote of a fan being like, Phoenix is Suns. We're Suns town. We're all about the Suns. Like, yes. Fuck you, Cardinals.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Diamondbacks.
I mean, I will say Phoenix is a winner town. Like we'd like to see winners, and the crowds will show up for winners. But first and foremost, we're a Suns town. Everyone who grew up here had the Suns in the playoffs every year. It was like, okay, when we get to the playoffs, we bring it. We haven't been to the playoffs in a while, but now that we're back, look what happens to this crowd. Like they they were on top of that game. They're great in game 2 as well. The only thing I missed was the fact that Markieff Morris came in the game and the announcer didn't announce that he came in, so nobody booed him. I tried, but didn't.
And we
work.
couldn't tell on the broadcast because they didn't do the starting lineups, but he was in the starting lineup for Game 5, and one assumes that the crowd did exactly what they should and booed the shit out of him.
Yes.
I have to assume that's true. The crowd was phenomenal. And again, we happen to go to the one game the Suns have lost at home in this series. I'm not super bitter about that. It would have been kind of entertaining to be at Game 5, but I don't even know if I would have known what to do with myself. I think you could even tell from the crowd, like in the first half, their energy was awesome from start to finish. The second half wavered. It's kind of inevitable, and also the Chris Paul injury was in there, so I think there's a lot of factors to that. But boy, the first half, that's as loud as the building's been since probably, I don't even think the 2010 run had a crowd like that.
I think the game 4 of that Lakers series in 2010 might have, just because we were coming back in the series. But no, I mean it's been a while since we've had something like that. You know, the energy in there was just a joyous one of like, wow, look what we're doing to this team right now.
Yeah. And you could see like fans were incredulous, at least on the Bally's broadcast. They kept, cutting to fans, and some of them were like super amped up and like, fuck you, and like all this
Some
cool
were just
stuff.
like,
and some of them were just like, we're up by how much?
Yeah.
On this team?
Look, and some of the national pundits are like, forget about, how do they phrase it? Like, even if they make it through this Suns team, it's going to be kind of tough. And I'm thinking like, no, I'm a fan, but like, we are the challenge. Like, we're not like, wow, if they can't even beat the Suns, how are they going to move on? It's like, no, I think we are their big. I think if they do make it past us, maybe they have a shot of going and beating other teams. I think we're that good. So I don't buy any of that. I think we are the Lakers challenge. And I want to kill them on Game 6. I really do.
Yeah, I want to just end this, get Chris Paul a couple extra days rest. I want that the Nuggets and Blazers series to go into Game 7, so we have even more rest. I think our playoff atmosphere, you can see how Booker plays better. You can see how our home crowd lifts us up. I think that's a huge advantage for us, especially over some other teams that don't have as big of an advantage. This is a weird year when it comes to that. I mean, most times every arena is sold out and stuffed to the gills. Not this year, and we've got a slight advantage over that. Somebody like Utah, we don't have that advantage over because they're packing their stadium. But over the Lakers, Clippers, Trailblazers, we have that advantage right now.
Look, I don't want to get overconfident, but we've outplayed them now for 7 straight quarters. So I just fingers crossed, please.
And I gotta admit, I should be excited to beat the Lakers under any circumstances, and I am. And I should be just rooting for the Suns in general because we want them to go as far as possible. When they pulled that shit in Game 3, all bets were off with me.
Yeah.
That was the point where I was like, okay, this goes beyond like fuck Markieff Morris and Alex Caruso can go die in a fire. He's vastly overrated. And Kyle Kuzma's trash and shouldn't be in the same sentence as Devin Booker. Now I'm like, this is like the last straw with me for LeBron. And it even happened in Game 4. He'd had that dunk with the pass off the backboard, and he let go of the rim, and he flung his arms out, which got photoshopped into oblivion after they lost. And little things like that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Fine. Underestimate us. Take us for granted. And then get your asses kicked and go the fuck home.
Yep. I will say this series has not made me waver on LeBron's past accomplishments, but it certainly has made me waver in how I perceive him as I won't say a person, because I think as a person, he's not a criminal. He's not, a bad person necessarily. He's just, his ego overtakes everything. And it is the hardest thing to get past with him. It's all about him. And it's just so difficult for that.
Go ahead.
I think for people, it's easy to write off his early career as him being so young because he came into the league at 18 and he was kind of already anointed by himself as King James and the expectations were there. And he delivered very quickly in his career, right? Like he was a phenom and he was awesome and is awesome. But it lingered. It lingered through to the decision. It lingered into the Miami thing with the 4, 5, 6 titles. It lingered into him manufacturing this roster with the Lakers. It's never left. He's gotten smarter about it and savvier about it, but I think that ego has still been there his entire career. And it kind of has to be a player at his level. It's why when we last did the Michael LeBron debate in an episode like 6 months ago, I said they are a lot more alike than anybody gives them credit.
For sure.
You sort of have to be the best in a generation. Like, it almost is inevitable.
But to me, the difference is like ego, the way they're channeled maybe is different. I think from Michael, it was, I want to win at all costs, and that's it pretty much.
Well,
and
if he didn't, it wasn't everyone else's fault. Like even
yes.
LeBron's post game quote for Game 5 was nothing but, my job is to set up my teammates, and we couldn't hit shots today. No, LeBron, you said your shoulders were wide enough to carry this team. Go score 50. That's what you have to do. And you didn't. You tried to set up all your teammates who's chucked bricks into the ocean, basically.
I did notice that was a backhanded insult to the teammates. Like, yeah, you're saying it's your job, but really you're saying your teammates couldn't hit a shot.
Yeah. No, it's not your job. That's not your job. Your job is to score and lead your team to victory, and you didn't do that. Now, granted, some of that had to do with the Suns' defensive game plan, which was basically, oh, you're going to drive, LeBron? Well, here's 4 of us. Go ahead, pass it out. Have fun.
And they keep saying, well, the Lakers are going to shoot well from 3 one of these days. It's like, well, they were garbage all season. They were like 21st in the league in 3-point percentage. So I'm not positive they will. And they outshot the Suns from 3 in Game 5.
I was almost afraid that the Suns would feel pressure to win Game 5 because, huge game with Davis out, but probably coming back at some point. It's like, we got to jump on this opportunity, and that could create some pressure. It felt like the Lakers were playing with pressure, and I think a lot of the pressure is with Davis out, it's all on us now. And LeBron's going to be so mad if we don't hit these shots. And because that's what he does. You notice Chris Paul comes and he's, he gets in your grill, but it's usually like, come on, like, you got this. And I think LeBron is like, you motherfucker.
His other players were seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
Especially once the first couple of threes didn't fall. I mean, how many times did we see Schroeder pass up an open 3? Caruso, after he missed the first couple, seemed hesitant, made a couple in the second quarter. But like, they were passing up open opportunities once they weren't falling. And we've seen that from every team, right? It's not like a Lakers exclusive. The Suns have had games like that where they're seeing ghosts. But I just don't think this form of LeBron with this ankle injury is capable, and I hope I don't eat those words. But again, I'm not basing that just on how we won Game 5 in such commanding fashion. It's just, can they beat the Suns twice with this LeBron and whatever this AD is? I don't see it.
Well, we seem to figure, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, we figured out Schroeder, it seems like, to an extent, because
make him shoot.
Like, when he goes in, his drives, a lot of NBA players are tricky because they will change directions, or they'll do a Euro step and then go into the middle. Every time he goes like far glass, and it's the same layup every single time. And he was killing us in Game 1 and Game 2. And obviously he didn't score at all, but like, he would go to do that. He got the shit swatted out of him by Bridges. Ayton did it last game. It's like, we've kind of figured out his thing. And if he can't shoot, what does he have? He's not a plate setter.
Nope.
So, like,
not a great defender.
So what's hilarious, he's turning out $84 million for a bigger payday, and I don't know that that's coming.
It's like he wanted $100 million, and that 0 points in a pivotal playoff game is not going to do that for you. Yeah. Unlike Campaign, who's seemingly more worth $100 million nowadays.
God, Campaign. Everybody's like, maybe Ayton's our best player through the series. Maybe it's Booker, and it's like, it might be Campaign consistently for scoring points. I think it is Ayton still, but he's so reliable every time.
He's our 3rd best player throughout this series, solidly. Yep. I mean, Booker and Ayton have been 1-2. And Campaign has been our 3rd best player. And something you mentioned about LeBron earlier with, how he treats his teammates seeing ghosts and oh God, LeBron's gonna be pissed. Chris Paul, on the other hand, comes back from a shoulder injury, comes back onto the bench, hits Campaign in the chest and points to the scoreboard and says, that score, that's because of you. Yeah. Like, holy shit, I want to run through a wall for this guy now. Like, that is incredible.
And him and Jay Crowder went over to Wesley Matthews and talked that out too, because I think Paul was just scared shitless at the prospect that he was hurt again and going to be out again.
Yep.
And he had a natural reaction. Now, did he oversell it? Probably. Chris Paul's been known to do that, so I'm not saying he wasn't just kind of trying to see if he could get a flagrant or something in the moment too. I don't even know. I mean, Paul's been something of a slightly dirty player his whole career, so I know he's not going to get a lot of sympathy, and I'm not just going to suddenly flip the switch just because he's a son. But in that spot, I at least understand where it was coming from. And like you said, he came back to support everybody at the end, and LeBron took off because he had to get treatment. Oh, okay, so he needed to get treatment 12 minutes earlier?
Yeah, bullshit.
He had such a pressing injury, he had to leave then?
He made his media appointment, his media session on time.
Maybe that's why he was going to be late to that, and he knew the media was too important.
Oh, must have been.
The one thing I'll say, he at least admitted that we kicked their asses. That was the one quote with some candor where I was like, all right, that's fair, because that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So at least that was something, but then it was kind of like, all right, teammates under the bus, AD under the bus. I'm going to prepare as though he's not going to be there mentally, but, I don't know, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
He's an expert at that now.
It's kind of funny. A lot of the players are like, we're not even going to watch film. Like, we're just going to watch this one away. And I'm kind of like, wow, really? Like, great. Yeah, they don't watch film. Don't make any adjustments, please. I would love to do this again.
Mm-hmm. And Markieff Morris was like, they disrespected us. And automatically everybody was like, oh, what did you say?
Yeah.
What, Markieff? It turns out he meant more in the sense of like just how bad the game was. And he didn't mean it in a negative way. But I saw that quote coupled with a couple of LeBrons, and I was like, yeah? And there was a little bit of complaining from some Lakers fans, especially the dumb ones that are like, oh, the refs. And I'm like, you lost by like 1 million. I don't understand. Well, LeBron didn't shoot any free throws. Well, he didn't drive.
Yeah.
So how's he going to get free throws?
I will say, I'm not saying that the refs were bad or anything. Seemingly there were more calls that 50-50 calls that seemed to go our way in Game 5.
We got more home cooking, for sure.
Yeah.
I said it during the thing.
Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, I'll take one game where we get the benefit of the calls in this series.
Yep.
It hasn't happened before, but again, we won by 1 million points. So like that wasn't why.
I think it was some home cooking. I would be naive if I said it was nothing, but it's also calls generally favor the team that hustles more.
Yep.
And guess who had any effort and intensity in that game whatsoever? Won the Lakers.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, let's touch on this final point here. We have 7 other series going on, which, just to introduce a point up front that might be worth discussing, I haven't been that interested in watching other playoff games now that the Suns are in it. In years past, I've kind of checked out a couple series in particular if there was an interesting matchup. And now, like, I don't mind having a game on, but I'm not really actively following a whole lot, maybe checking the score, but I'm not watching entire playoff games this postseason. Has that experience been any different for you guys so far?
You know what did it? In day 1, we're on vacation. I watched like every game. And then once the Suns played, I had no interest in what. And it was like, I think experiencing like, oh, this is what it's like to actually care and have a team in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I didn't feel a big desire to do it after that.
Yeah, I think I'm putting so much mental energy into the Suns games and time and just overall just effort towards it, just like thought process towards it, that I don't have the time or capacity to pay attention to the other games. Yeah, I'll check the scores and stuff and I'll see how it's going, and I've kind of had it on in the background. But yeah, I've just been like, nope, I don't need to watch this. I'll do other stuff so I can really set myself up for the Suns game.
So for me, with that caveat in mind about how none of us have been really attentively watching these other series, I still wanted to see what else in the first round has kind of got your interest. For me, while you guys have a moment to think, because I sprung this on you, it's not actually any one series. It's the fact that fans are such assholes.
Yep.
And luckily none of ours have done that yet. Who knows? It's a ticking time bomb. Anybody could be an idiot in an isolated situation. But the amount of dumbasses we've seen in just the last week and a half is kind of startling almost.
Yeah, I think Charles Barkley said it really well, how it's like we've had 5 idiots, and it is weird that there's a trend like that, but also I think the fact that people are back in the arenas now, for some reason, give them this idea that it's entitled. But, I mean, stuff like this has happened in the past forever. I mean, Philadelphia fans throwing batteries at football players, throwing snowballs at Santa Claus. I mean, like, there's stories of this happening throughout history, so it sucks that it happens. But you ban the guys, you make a stern punishment for them. And
well, I'm glad the one guy got arrested.
Yep, absolutely. As he should. You threw a full water bottle at Kyrie Irving. That could have really hurt him.
Yeah, I don't like Kyrie Irving at all. And
No.
I'm so glad that this guy got punishment. It almost makes me root for Kyrie, in fact, because it's such bullshit. They're crying and moaning that he stomped on the logo or whatever. It's like, who gives a shit, man? Like, there's like fun drama saying Trae Young is balding. Like, that's fun drama.
That's vintage New York. And then they got their asses kicked the rest of the series.
Yeah. Saying, I hope your mom dies, Trae Young. Like, that's not cool. Throwing a water bottle. And, like, the difference is obvious. It's not like it's a thin red line. It's like, clearly you're out of control. And I don't know why.
I have been surprised, though, around with other series, how quickly the East... I guess I'm not surprised how quickly the East series wrapped up. I mean... Pretty much all the top seeds won outside of the Knicks, and like they were at 4-5, so it's pretty much an even matchup on that. So all the East series are wrapped up, and then the Mavericks and Clippers series. How the hell is not a home team hasn't won a game in that series yet? I don't know how that physically happens.
Yeah, you would thought after the Clippers clawed their way back with the 2 wins in Dallas that maybe they had taken control of the series, and instead, I think Rick Carlisle slept on as a coach, and he made a couple of adjustments for today's game that ended up paying off. And also, Luka just decided that the hell with this, I'm going to shoot 37 times and let's see what happens. But
well, and if I'm a Dallas fan, I'm saying, it's not a coincidence that you won a couple games when our player was hurt, right? With that neck, so like. Plays a factor. How much?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he overselling it? Is it really painful? Who knows? But
I do laugh so much about how the Clippers jockeyed to get out of position, so they didn't have to play the Lakers.
Yep.
The Lakers threw away the regular season, thinking that the playoffs. Well, now both of them are 1 win away from going home for the rest of the year. And the West then everyone said it's going to be LA versus LA. There's just nothing else that can happen. Well, now the West is wide open. If that happens, I mean, the West is just open, and there's so many deserving teams in the West. I mean, Denver is insane. Dame is playing out of his mind. The Suns look the best out of all of them, very possibly. The Jazz look like they're back. It's going to be an exciting rest of the series. I think it's even better than if the Lakers and Clippers are gone. I think that makes it better.
Yeah, I don't know if the NBA is going to agree with you, but
I know.
They love their big markets. So
It's
the
fine.
Knicks and the 2 LA teams all being gone in round 1 is going to be a bit of a setback for them. Brooklyn is going to become their last hope, basically, because I'm sure they're looking at things and like, God, do we really want like a Utah-Milwaukee NBA Finals? Because that sounds gross, even though I'm kind of interested in that matchup because it's fresh and different, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I think Utah's been the most impressive team in the first round. It's hard to say that's us despite the Game 5 win because we have struggled offensively. Some of that's the Lakers' defense. Some of that is our own woes. Utah has certainly looked a lot better with their backcourt healthy. Who knew, right? And
Weird.
Mitchell went off tonight. So that'll be interesting if we can make it that far. We have the Nuggets and Blazers on the other side if we are able to beat the Lakers, who just had that massive double overtime epic on Tuesday night, and they'll play again tonight after this airs. I don't know which team I'm really rooting for. Probably Portland, but I think we can handle either. But, boy, they both showcased why they've made it this far, even with the flaws that each of their rosters has, whether that's injuries or something else.
If we do end up playing Portland and we're up by 3 with 10 seconds left, please foul.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that. At one point, Dame had his back to the basket inside the three-point line. And I'm like, even if you're sort of on the fence about the foul in the last few seconds spot, that's automatic.
Yeah.
Because he can't shoot from that position, and if he does, it's a 2, and he's not going to make it. So that was the most befuddling thing of all. Like, you know he's already red hot. You know his reputation. His clutch factor is undeniable at this point. You have the opportunity to foul and make it a free throw game, and you don't take it, and you're very lucky to survive. Because if the rest of the Blazers don't collapse in double overtime, and also Covington's 2 missed dunks that reminded us of a certain Jason Richardson, then Dame wins that game almost single-handedly for them, and the Nuggets are going to Portland down 3-2.
Yep.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't even want to think too much about next. It's funny because it doesn't matter. Nothing we do, our focus, our superstition doesn't matter at all. But I'm still like, no, just got to stay focused on the If we beat the Lakers, then I'll start thinking about our next opponent. But yeah, we'll see. Game 6.
Yep.
And then maybe Game 7. But I don't want.
No.
I know. Like right now, it feels good because like, well, we have to win. One of the next 2, they have to win both. And it's like, yeah, but if they win the next game, then all they have to do is win. And it's not as safe as it feels. So I just want to win the next game and just be done.
Chris Paul said that it was important to win Game 6. They can get that extra rest. I mean, he can get that extra rest. Really, the rest of the teams, knock on wood, been healthy so far. They've taken care of it. Everyone's seemingly good. But especially if Portland wins and they go to 7. And we can close out in 6. That's just so big in this time of year. Like, everyone gets nicked up in the playoffs. Having that extra couple days is just giant.
Dave, you talked about it. This reminded me. Some Suns fans were mad that Monty had Chris Paul in the game still, and I'm like, the magnitude of this win has confused fans because it's only the third quarter. You certainly don't start resting your starters. But everybody's like, we're up by 30. What is he doing? It's like, no. It's it's unusual.
Too much time.
Yeah. But that's way too much time.
If it was 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Fair criticism.
Yep.
Anything even in the fourth quarter at all, probably. Because the Lakers didn't really play their starters at any point in that quarter, right?
No.
As soon as the Lakers pull their starters, if you haven't taken yours out in a game that has that wide of a margin, then yeah, absolutely fair criticism.
Yep.
You can't take your foot off the pedal that early. In fact, that was what I was most worried about. And Eddie Johnson kept referring to it on the broadcast. It's like, it's human nature. It's hard to put your foot down on someone's throat and keep it there when they start choking because it's inevitable. You're like, well, they're not trying. They suck tonight. We've got this. If you let the door open just a little bit, so there's no excuse for that whatsoever.
Yep.
And look, Suns fans can overreact to anything just like anybody else can, so it's fair to point them out too because, yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, yeah, it was a flukish play, and everybody kind of had their Adam's apple up in their throat when he went down. It was quiet in this household. Like, everybody was just like, oh, God. Like, it's just been a phenomenal game. Is this what's going to mar it? Is this going to be the Suns' moment of this game?
Yeah.
Dave,
Hopefully it's not.
Do you know what I'm going to take as destiny? Is Kobe Bryant told the media I have bigger fish to fry than the Suns and Rajah Bell. And we were walking out of game 2. We had a Lakers fan in the arena who told us Lakers have bigger fish to fry than the Suns. And if we win, then fish to fry is the phrase of destiny for us. So here's hoping.
I wish we could find that man in that luchador mask. And
Me too.
Face really is kind of what I want to do, but also shove a fish in his face.
Yep.
A fried fish.
A literal fish.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he was all about Lakers in 5, so already fucked that one up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you want to backpedal to Lakers in 6, can't get Lakers in 6 either. It's going to take 7.
Yep.
Also,
hopefully,
both your guys' predictions are wrong now. Yay!
I was going to actually tell. I was reminded that no matter what, we're wrong. So,
yeah.
What's your prediction now? Well, 6 or 7, I guess I should say, because
I said Suns in 6 coming into this, and if Anthony Davis doesn't play, I'm even more on that train in Suns of 6. If he plays in his 50%, still Suns in 6. If he plays in his 100%, I'm a little more worried. But
that's what's funny though is like all season I've had this problem of like not accepting that we're just really good.
Yeah.
Like I keep waiting for us to like shit the bed and like
regress.
I just haven't accepted, like, no, we're just like a good team. And so we're not going to do that.
Well, it's just being kicked and kicked and kicked for 10 years. It's just waiting for the other shoe to drop now where it's like, okay, this has been fun, but I mean, something bad has to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Booker can't score 30 points a game, can't? Oh, wait. Probably can.
Probably could. Yeah, he did it in like 2.5 quarters.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I could change my prediction after every game, first of all, that would be cheating. But after game 4, it would not have been picking the Lakers anymore.
Yeah.
Especially given AD's health questions. Like at that point, if that had been the case at the start of the series, if you tell me he's going to go down in game 4, I'm not picking Lakers in 6.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's Suns in 6. I'm not going to predict it because I don't want to predict anything. I already had a prediction and it's wrong. At this point, I don't care. Just win game 6, dust this weak-ass team, send them packing, move on.
Move on.
Alrighty, that is the end of this episode. We'll be back next week. No more further interruptions until perhaps the week of July 4th. We'll see as we get closer. But for the time being, we'll be back on June 10th. Will it be another Suns cast? We'll see. If the Suns blow this series, we will not. If they win, we may still skip a week because we're going to be like after game 1 of the next series, and I'm not sure how much more we'll have at that point. We might just want to kind of mix it up. But there are more Suns casts coming one way or the other. We'll see if it's next week. In between shows, you can find us on our website, objectionnetwork.com, or at youtube.com/objectionnetwork for new videos 7 days a week. See you next time.